If your life has always felt heavier than most, it's not a coincidence. It's a calling. The losses, the pain, the isolation, and the repeating struggles weren't meant to break you. They were meant to awaken you. The universe gives silent tests, reserved only for those who are chosen. In this journey, we'll explore 10 spiritual challenges that may already be shaping your path. And as you begin to see the purpose behind the pain, you'll understand why you're really here. This is the moment to begin. Listen with your heart. You just might find what you've been searching for all along. What does it mean to be a chosen one? Have you ever felt an emptiness inside, as if you were meant for something bigger than your everyday life? That's not just a random feeling. It's a sign that you might be a chosen one, someone with a divine purpose, destined by the universe. But what does it really mean to be a chosen one? It's not about being perfect or privileged. It's about embarking on a journey of spiritual awakening, where you uncover the deeper meaning of your life. Think back to moments when you felt different. Maybe you felt like you didn't quite fit in with the crowd, or you ask yourself, why am I here? That's your inner calling, a signal that you're chosen to walk a unique path. This path isn't easy. You might have faced big challenges, losing a job, ending a relationship, or feeling lost. But those struggles aren't obstacles. They're spiritual lessons, helping you discover the hidden strengths and talents within you. Every hardship is a stepping stone, bringing you closer to your personal transformation. Being a chosen one is about being willing to face your fears, learn from mistakes, and grow into the best version of yourself. For example, think of a time you overcame a setback. You might have doubted yourself, but you found a way to keep going. That's proof you're growing on your spiritual journey. You're chosen not because you're flawless, but because you have the courage to keep moving forward. Now, get ready. We're about to explore the spiritual tests that only chosen ones like you can pass. These challenges will help you understand yourself and your mission more clearly. Test 1. The test of isolation. Perhaps you've woken up one morning feeling like the world around you had turned unfamiliar. The calls came less often, relationships quietly faded, and you started to wonder, why do I feel so alone? Did I do something wrong? But the truth is, you're not being abandoned. You're being called. This is the very first challenge every chosen soul must face. Isolation. Not as a punishment, but as a silent rite of passage. A space where you're forced to face yourself with no distractions, no noise, no one else's opinions. The world steps back so you can hear what's within. In the rush of daily life, the parties, the meetings, the expectations of others, it's easy to lose touch with your inner voice. Isolation comes like a mirror, reflecting who you truly are when all the outer layers are stripped away. This isn't the end, it's the beginning. You may feel left behind, like you're surrounded by people but no one truly sees you. Or maybe you've moved to a new place, where everything feels unfamiliar. No matter the form, the purpose is the same, to turn your gaze inward, where your sacred path begins to reveal itself. Think back to a time when you felt disconnected, when old ties no longer fit, when the familiar suddenly felt meaningless. That wasn't you losing your way, it was a redirection. It was the universe whispering, "Who are you?" when no one is around to tell you who you are. So how do you navigate this test? Start by embracing the stillness. Take solitary walks. Write down the dreams you've buried. Sit in silence and breathe deeply. And ask yourself with sincerity, if I'm not here to please the world, what am I really here for? This season of isolation won't last forever, but it's in that quiet that you will find clarity, strength, and direction. The chosen are not set apart to suffer. They are set apart to become. And when you rise, with a heart more luminous than ever, you'll be ready to face the next test, where new lessons await to shape your soul into light. Test 2. The test of betrayal. There comes a moment when everything you trusted collapses in silence. A friendship suddenly turns cold. A loyal partner speaks words that cut. A family member withdraws without explanation, and you're left standing in the echo of it all. Heart cracked open, wondering if you'll ever feel safe again. This is the test of betrayal, a spiritual earthquake that shakes the very core of who you believed people were. It doesn't knock politely. It arrives without warning, often from the ones you never expected. And it leaves behind a haunting question. Can I still trust? The truth is hard, but necessary. Betrayal is not here to destroy you. It comes to reveal, to peel back illusions, to remind you that the source of your strength doesn't live in anyone else's loyalty. It lives in your own. You may recall a time when someone's actions left you feeling discarded or unseen. Maybe it was subtle, the slow withdrawal of someone you thought would always be there. Or maybe it was swift, loud, and undeniable. Either way, that moment was never just about pain. It was the beginning of your return to self. This test teaches discernment. It shows you where you place too much of your worth in another's hands. It helps you rebuild trust, not blindly in people, but consciously in your own intuition, your own path, your own divine protection. To pass this test, allow yourself to hurt. Don't rush to be okay. Let the grief move through you, not to make you bitter, but to make you real. Then, practice forgiveness, not to excuse the betrayal, but to unchain your heart from the heaviness it carries. You forgive so you can walk lighter. Finally, choose again. Choose wiser. Let the pain teach you how to see people for who they are, not who you hoped they would be. Let it guide you toward deeper integrity in your connections, ones that mirror your growth, not your old wounds. This test is never easy, but chosen ones don't walk easy paths. You were not broken by betrayal. You were broken open. And now you get to choose what grows in that sacred space. The next test is already waiting, ready to stretch you further and call you closer to your truth. Test 3, the test of repeated patterns. Some lessons knock once, others return like echoes, again and again, until you finally pause and ask, what is life trying to teach me here? This is the test of repeated patterns, a quiet but persistent force on the path of every chosen one. It doesn't shout, it loops, it weaves the same situations into your life, not to punish, but to awaken. You might notice it in the way certain relationships always unfold. Trust given too quickly, boundaries crossed, voices silenced, or in how you always end up drained at jobs that don't see you, or trapped in cycles of doubt no matter how much you achieve. It's tempting to blame the world, but the pattern only breaks when you turn within. This test holds up a mirror and says, look again, you've been here before. Will you choose differently this time? Perhaps there was a moment you caught yourself mid-reaction, the same argument, the same retreat, the same guilt. And in that moment, a flicker of awareness. I know this place. I don't want to be here again. That's when the shift begins. To pass this test, you must first become still enough to recognize the rhythm of your own patterns. What keeps circling back into your life? What reaction are you offering it? The answers live in your willingness to stop running and start listening. Then comes the hard part, change. Not grand gestures, but subtle shifts. Say no where you used to say yes. Speak up where you once stayed silent. Offer compassion instead of self-judgment. Growth rarely feels comfortable, but it always feels honest. Lastly, trust the wisdom beneath the repetition. The universe isn't trying to trap you. It's trying to free you. Each return is a chance to rise a little higher. Each cycle is an invitation to evolve. The test of repeated patterns calls you to step out of the loop and walk a new way, one that aligns with who you are becoming. Pass this test, and you don't just escape the past, you transcend it. And just ahead, another test awaits. One that will humble you and strengthen your soul in ways you never expected. Test 4. The test of humility. There are times when momentum suddenly halts, not because you failed, but because something greater is asking you to pause. What once felt certain begins to slip. Recognition fades, plans unravel, and beneath it all, a quiet invitation appears. Will you surrender the need to be more and remember who you truly are? This is the test of humility, not a fall, but a return. A return to essence, to the place within you that knows you are powerful, yes, but you are not the source of power. You are gifted, but the gifts are not your identity. You are a vessel. Humility asks you to find balance in a world that praises striving. It whispers that true strength is not loud. It's steady. It's grounded. It doesn't seek the spotlight. It holds the light with reverence. For chosen ones, whose talents often shine early and bright, this test is especially sacred. Without it, pride grows in the shadow of purpose. This challenge often arrives through loss, a title removed, a vision delayed, a voice silenced by forces outside your control. And when it does, it can feel like being cut down to size. But these are not punishments. They are purifications. They strip away what was never truly yours to begin with, so you can walk lighter, clearer, truer. You may remember a time when success slipped through your fingers, or when being right didn't matter as much as being kind. In that moment, something deeper awakened. You were no longer climbing, you were grounding. And that grounding is where transformation begins. To pass this test, release the illusion of control, admit that you don't know it all, and that not knowing is holy. Then anchor yourself in gratitude. Thank the closed doors, the delays, the mirrors that humbled you. Gratitude softens the ego and strengthens the soul. And most of all, serve. Step beyond your self-focused dreams and ask, how can I be of use? When you lift others without needing to be seen, you rise in ways no platform can measure. Humility doesn't diminish you. It reveals your truest strength. It's the soil where divine purpose takes root and grows. Let's continue. The next test will stretch your spirit even further, into patience and into trust. Test 5. The test of patience. Not every path unfolds at the pace you expect. Sometimes what you desire remains just out of reach, not because you aren't ready, but because something greater is still being arranged. In these quiet stretches of waiting, a different kind of growth takes place, the kind that doesn't show on the surface. Plans feel paused, dreams feel delayed. Yet beneath what appears to be stillness, your spirit is being tempered for the road ahead. This is the test of patience. It's not loud like betrayal or humbling like failure. It's subtle, yet relentless. And for those who are called to something more, this test often lasts longer than seems fair. You may have known this season, working with no recognition, loving with no return, preparing for something that keeps shifting just beyond the horizon. It's natural to grow restless, but the test isn't in the delay, it's in how you wait. Can you hold your vision without forcing it? Can you stay rooted even when nothing blooms? Can you keep showing up, not out of desperation, but devotion? To move through this test, release the belief that faster means better. Timing is not always in your hands, but trust is. So place your faith in the unseen rhythm that moves beneath everything. Then come back to this moment. Find the sacred in the ordinary. Let small joys, a deep breath, a kind word, a step taken without rush, remind you that life is still happening even here. and when doubt creeps in, remember the times you thought things were falling apart, but they were falling into place. You are not being forgotten. You are being fortified. This test doesn't stall your purpose. It prepares you for it. And when the time is right, your path will quicken, and you'll know exactly why the wait mattered. Let's move forward now. What comes next will ask something deeper from you. The courage to live in full alignment with your truth. Test 6. The test of integrity. Sometimes the true test doesn't come with loud opposition. It comes quietly, wrapped in opportunity. A moment arises where no one would blame you for taking the easy way out. And yet, something inside resists. This is the test of integrity. It doesn't ask you to be flawless. It asks you to be faithful. Faithful to the voice within that knows what feels aligned and what doesn't. For those walking a higher path, this test returns often, not to punish but to polish. It reveals itself when you're offered a shortcut that goes against your values, when silence feels safer than honesty, when gaining approval means betraying your truth. These aren't just choices, they're mirrors, and they ask, will you stand with who you are, even if no one sees you do it? Integrity is not about rigid perfectionism. It's about realness. It's about living in quiet alignment with your soul, especially when no one is watching. You may remember a moment like this. The chance to cut corners, to go along for convenience, to blend in rather than speak up. The temptation was real, but so was the unease. That discomfort was your compass, pointing you back to yourself. To pass this test, begin by naming what truly matters to you. Honesty, fairness, kindness. Let those values be the filter for every decision, big or small. Then, watch how subtle compromise tries to slip through the cracks. A half-truth here, a silent nod there. Don't shame yourself, but stay awake. When you catch it early, you return faster to your center. And finally, believe this. Living with integrity may cost you something on the surface, a deal, a friend, a title. But what it gives you is beyond measure. Clarity, confidence, peace, and the power of walking a path that's truly yours. The test of integrity invites you to shine without spotlight. To be loyal not to an image, but to your essence. Hold steady. The next test will take you deeper into the question of why you're truly here. Test 7. The test of purpose. There comes a point when the question isn't just, what do I do next? But why am I really here? Not out of pressure, not out of comparison, but because something deep within starts to stir. A quiet knowing that your life is meant to carry more meaning than the motions you've repeated for so long. This is the test of purpose, one of the most intimate and defining moments in the journey of a chosen soul. It doesn't always arrive with clarity. Often it comes through confusion, through the ache of feeling unfulfilled, through the discomfort of succeeding at something that doesn't align with who you are becoming. The challenge is not just to discover your calling, but to live it, even when it means letting go of paths that once felt secure. You may have felt this tension between doing what's expected and following what feels real, between the role you've been handed and the voice inside asking for more. That inner pull is not your imagination, it's guidance. To pass this test, begin by returning to yourself. Strip away the noise of what others think you should do. Sit with your passions, your longings, your questions. Not everything will be clear, but some part of you already knows. Start there, then move. Don't wait for permission or perfection. Begin where you are, with what you have. Purpose is not a title. It's a way of being. It's the energy you bring to every choice, every step, every offering, and it reveals itself more clearly the more you live it. Finally, trust the unfolding. You won't see the full map at once, but with each act of alignment, Each brave decision to honor your truth, the path will open. The test of purpose asks you not to be impressive, but to be true, to show up for the life only you can live. Keep going. The next test will challenge how tightly you're willing to hold on and how gracefully you can let go. Test 8. The test of detachment. Sometimes what once lifted you becomes the very thing that holds you down. Not because it lost its value, but because your spirit has started to stretch beyond its walls. This is the test of detachment, a sacred threshold between what was and what could be. It asks you to loosen your grip, not to discard what matters, but to make space for what's now aligned. For chosen ones, this test doesn't always come with clarity. You might find yourself resisting change, clinging to roles, routines, or relationships that once felt like home. But growth has a way of making the old feel too small. And when the heart outgrows its container, discomfort arrives not as punishment, but as guidance. You may feel torn between loyalty and longing. A part of you remembers the comfort, while another part quietly asks, is it time to let go? This tension is where transformation begins. And sometimes, detachment doesn't come from dramatic endings. It begins in subtle ways, a diminishing spark, a shift in energy, a sense that something no longer nourishes your soul. That quiet discomfort is often the first sign that your higher self is asking for release. To move through this test, begin by looking gently at what you're holding on to and why. Ask, am I staying out of love or out of fear? Then, honor what has served you. Every job, relationship, habit, or belief you now release once held meaning. Thank it for what it gave. Let it leave in peace. Next, give yourself permission to grieve. Detachment doesn't mean you won't feel the loss. It means you choose freedom over attachment. Allow the sadness, but don't confuse it with wrongness. Letting go can hurt and be right. And finally, trust the unfolding. What's leaving is clearing the way. What's arriving will meet you with perfect timing. Your hands may feel empty for a while, but soon they'll be open enough to receive. The test of detachment doesn't ask you to abandon. It asks you to evolve. And as you lighten your load, the path ahead becomes clearer. In the next test, that path will ask for one more thing: your full trust. Test 9. The test of trust in the divine. Not every question comes with an answer. Not every step forward reveals solid ground. And yet, something within urges you to move anyway, to keep walking through the fog, even when your hands are empty and your heart is full of doubt. This is the test of trust in the divine. The quiet call to believe. Not because things are clear, but because your soul remembers. Clarity isn't always the point. Sometimes, the lesson is in the not knowing, in choosing presence over proof. Chosen ones often meet this test in liminal spaces, those strange, silent thresholds between what was and what hasn't yet arrived. A door closes, but the next one doesn't open. A plan dissolves, but no new one appears. And in that in-between, faith stops being a word and becomes a lifeline. You may have stood in such a space, when the ground beneath your certainty gave way. A chapter ended without warning. A dream didn't unfold. A long silence replaced the answers you prayed for. But even then, you breathed. You stayed. You dared to believe in something more. To pass this test, begin by softening your grip on needing to understand. Trust doesn't require all the pieces, just a willingness to move with what you have. Faith is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to walk forward even with trembling hands. Then, learn to listen differently. The universe doesn't always shout. Sometimes it speaks through a delay, a change of plans, or a gentle nudge in a quiet moment. A stranger's kindness, a phrase that stirs something in your chest. These are not accidents. They are confirmations. Next, return to remembrance. Look back at the paths you didn't plan that led to beauty, the detours that protected you, the waiting that ripened you. You were held then, and you're being held now. And if the fog still lingers, let that too be part of the journey. This test doesn't demand certainty. It invites peace without it. It asks you to root deeper, even when the sky is overcast, to walk without answers, yet still with purpose. Trust is not blind, it's brave. And as you surrender the need to know, the path ahead slowly reveals itself, not all at once, but just enough for your next step. One more test remains, and it is the one that brings everything home. Test 10. The test of love. To keep your heart open when it would be easier to close it. That is the final and most sacred test of all. This is the test of love. Not the fleeting kind tied to romance or reward, but the steady, transformative kind that asks nothing in return. The kind that reaches past wounds and ego, past pride and fear, and simply chooses to care. For chosen ones, this test is the soul's final initiation. Because everything you've walked through, the pain, the waiting, the isolation, the letting go, it all leads here, to this question: can you still love, even after everything? This test shows up in small and quiet ways, in forgiving someone who hurt you, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace, in being kind to someone who's cold, in offering yourself patience when your mind tells you you failed. And sometimes it's even harder. Sometimes love looks like walking away, but without bitterness. Sometimes it means setting a boundary, but doing so with grace. Love doesn't mean allowing harm. It means holding compassion even while protecting your peace. To pass this test, begin within. Speak to yourself the way you would to someone you deeply care for. Let softness reach the parts of you still hiding behind shame. You can't give what you refuse to receive, and self-love is the foundation of all healing. Then, expand that compassion outward, not as obligation, but as overflow. See the wounds in others without needing to fix them. Love without needing control. Release the idea that love must be earned, or perfect, or always reciprocated. True love liberates. It gives without fear. It stands firm, but with an open palm. This test isn't asking for a performance. It's asking for presence, to be fully human and fully divine in how you choose to show up. You don't have to do it all at once. Love in small, courageous ways. A word, a gesture, a moment of grace. That's how light spreads. This is the test that transforms all the others. Because once love flows freely through you, nothing stays the same. Not your path, not your presence, not the people around you. You've made it here. You've faced the fire. And now, you carry the flame. Go forward as love, because that is your highest purpose. You've now walked through 10 sacred thresholds, each one a mirror, a fire, a doorway. Not every test was loud. Some whispered through silence. Others shook the ground beneath you. But each one had a purpose, not to defeat you, but to reveal you. You were never tested because you were weak. You were tested because you were ready. Ready to be shaped not by comfort, but by courage. Ready to remember that your path was never meant to look like anyone else's. Because your soul carries a mission only you can fulfill. Isolation taught you to hear your inner voice. Betrayal showed you the strength of your truth. Patterns asked you to rise beyond the past. Humility grounded your power. Patience stretched your trust. Integrity anchored your choices. Purpose called you home. Detachment freed your hands. Trust deepened your faith. And love opened your heart wide enough to carry it all. You are not who you were when this journey began. You are more honest, more whole, more alive in your becoming. And though there will be more tests, more days where clarity fades and strength is stretched, you now know. You are never walking alone. The universe walks with you. And so do all of us who've chosen this path of awakening. So step forward with your heart open and your spirit lit. Shine, not because it's easy. Shine because it's time.